What is going on, everyone? This is Eric coming at you live from just outside of Hartford, Connecticut. And today we are going to be recapping the round of 12, previewing the round of 8 for the 2022 NASCAR Cup Series playoffs. Wanted to do this video a little while ago, but unfortunately I needed to get a new headset. My old one went kaput. So I'm using an old one because the new one still hasn't arrived and it's not expected to arrive for a few days now. So I don't want to be in the same situation that I am for baseball with NASCAR too. So I might as well just get this video done now rather than wait until we already have a race in the round of 8. So anyways, as we've done the past 2 weeks, the past two series rounds, whatever. We did look at the round of 16. We looked at the round of 12. I gave my predictions. My predictions have been, I mean, 2 of the people I predicted to make the Final Four are eliminated. So, always fun when that happens. But anyways, let's kind of go into it. We're going to recap, like I said, the round of 12. We'll talk about the 3 races. And then I will look at the next 3 races and kind of give some predictions. So anyways, the first race in the round of 12 was at Texas Motor Speedway, and this was an interesting race. This was the one race that I was able to watch from start to finish in the actual, when it was live. The other 2 races I had stuff going on, so I couldn't watch the full race, but the race at Texas was pretty good, pretty compelling. Right off the bat, pretty early, there were a lot of wrecks, which is always surprising for Texas. You don't necessarily expect that, but sometimes things like that happen. Now, of course, Kyle Busch, Cole Custer, both out. Christopher Bell collected in a wreck. He gets timed out in the damaged vehicle policy, so he gets 34th. He's still in the playoffs at this point, so that really hurts him. He had a good position, but that happens. And then Chase Elliott also gets involved in an accident early, just like he did in the first race of the round of 12, or the round of 16, so all of a sudden, that huge points advantage that he had gotten by being the regular season champion is gone. So he got 32nd. Alex Bowman gets involved in a wreck. Now, he's able to continue racing, but there's a catch. He finishes 29th. But just because he finished 29th doesn't mean much. He's already really, having a tough time. Had a very small chance of actually advancing to the round of 8. But in his wreck, he would end up suffering a concussion, and unfortunately for him, we'll see what happens. Now, other playoff guys, notable guy, Bubba Wallace, 25th. Not horrible. Now, you get Kevin Harvick, 19th, notable guy. Austin Dillon, 17th. Not notable, but Austin Cindric, playoff driver, finished 15th. And then the top 10, you had Denny Hamlin 10th, Kyle Larson 9th, William Byron 7th. Now the top 5, in a little bit of a surprise, but not really, because this is usually a good track for Fords. Usually, Chase Briscoe got 5th, Ryan Blaney got 4th, Justin Haley, not a playoff driver, got 3rd, Joey Logano got 2nd, which is not surprising, and the winner of the race was Tyler Reddick. Now, this was his 3rd or 4th win of the year. Unfortunately for Reddick, it came after he got eliminated in the round of 16. So it's kind of like a slap in the face, like, hey, you can win, but it doesn't matter, you're done. You just won a meaningless race. So essentially, for the 4th straight playoff race at this point, all 4 race winners were guys who were not alive in the playoffs anymore. Hold Wallace being alive in the Owners' Championship, but not the NASCAR playoffs. So at this point, we did have some, everyone's basically, the points are up for grabs. Everyone's still alive. No one's eliminated. Now, then we go to Talladega. And as you know, if you're a NASCAR fan, Talladega, Daytona are the 2 tracks. No one knows what's going to happen. I mean, you can literally see an absolute no-name win this race. At the Daytona race earlier, we had guys like Eric Jones, who's not necessarily a no-name, but Corey LaJoie was up front for the majority of the race. For a lot of the race, I should say. It just comes down to if you can actually get it done. Can you get it done? Can you actually get the win? Can you complete the race? Wrecks like crazy. Now, of course, Talladega is always fun. For the fans. Not really the drivers. Now, before Talladega, it was announced that Alex Bowman would not be able to race that week, due to the concussion that he had suffered in the Texas crash. So that really put a damper on his things. He had Noah Gragson take over his car. So, I mean, Gragson's a good driver, but he's not gonna... It doesn't matter if he wins. He could have won the race. It wouldn't have mattered for Bowman. It would have mattered for the championship, but not for Bowman himself. Anyways, worth noting, at this point now, Bowman would need to win in the last race of the round to advance. There was no way for him to get in on points. But how did the guys do? There really weren't a lot of wrecks in Talladega, which is pretty surprising. But at the same time, it is, but it isn't. Now, none of the playoff drivers ended up getting involved in wrecks, which is good. And none of them had really bad weeks. I mean, there were guys who got involved in minor little skirmishes and stuff. Like Joey Logano was the worst playoff driver. He got 27th. But it wasn't like he was bad. It just he had gotten spun around, so it stunk for him. Now, one thing I should have mentioned for Texas is that during the race at Texas, there was some caution drama between Denny Hamlin and William Byron, where William Byron, being a stuck-up daddy's boy, kind of spun out Denny under caution. Now, NASCAR originally gave Byron a 25 playoff point penalty, and at this point, it was in effect for the Talladega race. So he was on the outside looking in. Anyways, back to Talladega. So Logano got 27th. And then, really, no other playoff driver got outside the top 20. Kyle Larson was the next lowest to 18th, which kind of speaks volume to how good the playoff drivers did. They were keeping their noses clean, so to speak. Christopher Bell got 17th. And then William Byron, 12th. Everyone else was in the top 10. Chase Briscoe, 10th. Austin Cindric, 9th. Daniel Suarez, 8th. Then you had Denny Hamlin at 5th. Ross Chastain at 4th. Non-playoff driver Mike McDowell was consistently up front all day. He got 3rd. Ryan Blaney and Chase Elliott had a dogfight at the very end of the race. And for the second time this year in a super speedway, Ryan Blaney narrowly missed out on a win. Chase Elliott would get the win. For the first time this playoff series, these playoffs, a NASCAR Cup Series playoff driver would earn the win. It only took 5th try, and it only took a very not skill-needed racetrack for it to happen. Yeah, Talladega, you need skill to actually drive that fast, but it's Talladega. So at this point, Chase Elliott is locked in to the round of 8. There are still 7 spots up for grabs heading in to the last race of the round at Charlotte Motor Speedway, the Roval. Now, before this race, a very unpopular, stupid move was made by NASCAR, where they essentially rescinded William Byron's 25 playoff point penalty, which to me makes no sense whatsoever, but this isn't a NASCAR channel per se, and while I do like to give my opinion on things like this, I just think that whole thing was stupid. I think they should have withheld the penalty. They should have given him that penalty. They should have said, no, you spun him out under caution. His fans were saying, oh, it wasn't intentional. It was intentional. If you're going to spin out somebody under caution, it's stupid. And I think there's a whole bias here. It depends on what team you race for. It depends on what your car manufacturer is. As you can probably tell, I'm a Ford fan. I don't mind the Toyotas. I do not care for the Chevrolets, which is why I probably feel this way. But I can kind of straight up tell you, if this was a Ford driver, he would have still had the penalty. If Logano had done this, he would still have the penalty. They probably would have given him a 50-point penalty if he spun out Byron. If Hamlin spun out Byron, there would have been a bigger penalty. We know this. So I'm not happy about this. A lot of NASCAR fans are. A lot of them aren't. It's very divisive. Anyways, we go into the Roval, and before the race begins, it's announced that Alex Bowman will not be able to race due to his concussion that he had suffered in Texas. This officially ruled him out for the round of 8 because it's impossible for him to come in to make it because he is not racing. So he is done. He is eliminated in the round of 12. Unfortunately for him, it came for a medical reason, similar to why Kurt Busch essentially had to step out of the playoff picture. But we'll get to Kurt soon. We will get to Kurt Busch. So the Roval is a road course, and there really weren't many wrecks, which is always good. You don't necessarily want to see wrecks. Now, there were some mechanical problems that delayed some drivers and hurt some drivers big time. Ross Chastain ended in 37th, Daniel Suarez 36th, Kyle Larson 35th. Now, these are three very talented Chevrolets that at some point in time looked like potential favorites. Maybe not Suarez, but Larson and Chastain both look like favorites. And at this point, no one's really safe in the round of 8, excluding Chase Elliott. So these guys actually needed a lot to go their way to either make it or not make it. So then we keep going, and each spot I move up when I'm going through the list hurts these guys because it's a point that they lost out on. The next playoff driver finished 26th, and that would be Ryan Blaney. Then you had Austin Cindric at 21st, Chase Elliott at 20th, doesn't really matter for him, Joey Logano at 18th, William Byron at 16th, Denny Hamlin at 13th, Chase Briscoe at 9th, and I'll get into Briscoe in a minute. And then you had the top 5, Justin Haley, non-playoff driver, finished 5th. AJ Allmendinger, non-playoff driver for the Cup Series, will be a full-time Cup Series driver next year. Currently the probable front-runner for the Xfinity Series Championship, finished 4th. Kyle Busch, eliminated in the round of 16, finished 3rd. Kevin Harvick, eliminated in the round of 16, finished 2nd. And Christopher Bell, who was very close to being cut, actually won the race. He needed to win this race to advance to the round of 8, and he did it. He actually pulled it off, getting the win, moving into the round of 8. So at this point, both Chase Elliott and Christopher Bell have advanced to the round of 8 via victories. Now the points became a little more interesting, and of course you had a couple guys that were really good in the points. Joey Logano had a very good chance of making it through the points. So there was a point where his car was a little iffy, so they kind of said, you know what, just come into the pits, we'll fix it up. We're in a good position with the points. So Logano advances. Denny Hamlin was in that position. He was basically a really good chance to make it. So that left essentially 7 guys competing for the last 4. And the last spot would end up coming down to 3 drivers in particular. Now, there were pit strategies and all that good stuff, but all said and done, Ross Chastain, despite the tough race, did end up advancing, which, good for him. Ryan Blaney, similar thing, didn't have the best race in existence, but because of the previous races, he did advance. So, that's good, I suppose. You could say that's good. Now, William Byron, again, due to losing that point penalty, he advanced on points. So it came down to 3 guys, like I said, competing for that one final spot. Now, Daniel Suarez, his bad race, his inconsistent performances for 2 of the 3 races this round doomed him, so he was done. He would have needed everything to go his way. He would have needed a lot of wrecks to happen because he was racing a few laps down. Had a lot of playoff drivers been collected in wrecks, he would have been able to advance, but unfortunately for him, most of these cars were able to compete, so he gets eliminated. But that last spot came down to 3 guys. Austin Cindric, Chase Briscoe, and Kyle Larson. Now, Cindric had the advantage on the second to last restart, but his team made a bold strategy by not switching out their tires. They went out there, and it was a bold strategy. So, he was looking decent, but unfortunately for him, there was a caution that comes out. Now, on the second restart, this is where we start to see some craziness. So, Kyle Larson, all of a sudden, he has to go to the pits because he's having a mechanical issue. So, when it comes down to essentially, if Larson falls big time, Briscoe or Cindric can make it, or both of them can make it, but Bell would need to miss it, and Bell just kind of darts out of nowhere, took second place from like 12th on the first restart. So the second restart happens in overtime. Bell just cruises, takes the lead, runs with it. So at this point, it's like, okay, we're in trouble. You know, it's Briscoe v. Cindric v. Larson for that last spot. And what would happen is, of the 3 of them, things start to get a little interesting, and Cindric is barely holding on to a lead over the other two. All of a sudden, Eric Jones spins him out. He is on bad tires. So that essentially ended Cindric's chances of advancing to the round of 8, which really sucked. But it is what it is. The fact that he was a rookie that made it this far, very impressive. So after that, it came down to Briscoe v. Larson. And Briscoe was racing very aggressively, as he should be. He's competing for a playoff spot. And as aggressive as he's racing, he ends up getting just enough spots to finish just above Kyle Larson in the cut line. Now, what would happen is NASCAR did investigate this, and they claimed, some people were claiming that Cole Custer slowed down to block 2 people so his teammate could make it, Chase Briscoe. Garbage to me. That's racing. If the shoe were on the other foot, no one would have cared. Just saying. But anyways, because of this, Chase Briscoe continues his miraculous run to the round of 8. Defending champion Kyle Larson knocked out in the round of 12. Crazy to me. So anyways, to recap, Chase Elliott, Joey Logano, Ross Chastain, Christopher Bell, Ryan Blaney, William Byron, Denny Hamlin, and Chase Briscoe are your 8 drivers in the round of 8. Now to recap the 4 guys that missed out, Kyle Larson is the most surprising. There's always that one outlier that stands out as, how did he miss the round? How did he not advance? Last round it was Kyle Busch. This time, Kyle Larson. It's surprising, but Kyle Larson, great driver, one of the best drivers, definitely. I mean, he's under contract for a long time because Hendrick Motorsports knows how valuable he is. NASCAR in general knows how valuable this guy is. He has potential to be a dominant driver for another 10 years. I wouldn't be worried if I'm a Larson fan. I'm not a Larson fan because of what he said in 2020. I'm not going to repeat that for obvious reasons, but I kind of like seeing Larson get his comeuppance because of the team he races for as well. Great season for him. Obviously, he wishes it finished, a month later with the final win in Phoenix, but he's done. Great season for him. Inconsistent start to the year, but he got on fire towards the middle end of the year. Unfortunately, like I said, his car just kind of gave up on him in the final race. Daniel Suarez was one of the more impressive drivers. No one really thought of Suarez as a potential race winner this year, but he went into Sonoma and took a win. He was consistently running up front at times, which was oh so impressive, and people were kind of surprised. I mean, Trackhouse Racing in general had a great year this year. Suarez was clearly the driver 2 on that team. He's a gritty driver. You either like him or you hate him. I always kind of respected him for how he's done it. I have a little diecast of his. One day I'll have to show off my diecast collection, but as good as he is, it was apparent that he probably wouldn't have been a playoff driver if the system were different. And to make matters worse for him, he just really didn't look that great. He barely made it to the round of 12 because of other guys getting involved in wrecks. So it was a good run for him on the season. Austin Cindric's a guy who I've always kind of liked. Obviously, I'm a Penske fan, so, I mean, his dad's team president. So Cindric's a guy who I'm a big fan of. Him and Logano are my 2 favorite drivers, and getting to watch Cindric race was very fun. I kind of enjoyed watching him race this year. I've enjoyed watching him race since when I became a fan in 2020, watching him in the Xfinity series, and I kind of realized, okay, Cindric's gonna have a good year this year, but there's always growing pains for rookies. You will never see a rookie win the championship. It doesn't happen. We've never had a rookie make the round of 8 in the current NASCAR format. So Cindric actually had a very good chance to do it, very close chance of doing it. If the points were a little different, if you didn't get those advantage points for how you did in the regular season, he would have made the round of 8. But I'd have to look into it to see if he would have actually made it into the round of 12, were it not for that. And if you had the different points, would he even qualify for the playoffs? Anyways, it's one of those things where great season for Cindric, but fell just short. Daytona 500 winner, almost won the second race in Daytona this year, but Austin Dillon kind of said, nope, I need this win, you don't. So, became interesting, but Cindric has a very bright future. hopefully we get to see, hopefully I'm talking about him and Logano as back-to-back champions at this point next year. Fingers crossed. Last guy, Alex Bowman. I'm a Bowman fan. In my one NASCAR fantasy league, I did have Bowman this year. He's the only Hendrick Motorsports driver I don't actively dislike. So, I mean, there's that. And that was the case before the season anyway. I've always liked that hack narrative with him and Denny Hamlin. That was great last year. But Bowman didn't have a good year this year. Now, his crew chief Greg Ives is retiring after this year, so it's going to be interesting to see what happens. But Bowman might not be safe in the 48 car for much longer. I don't know how long his contract is for. But if Bowman doesn't... If he's on a one-year contract and he doesn't, do well next year, the Hendrick Motorsports cars are always going to be hot topics, hot cars, so someone will take that spot. So anyways, how do I think the round of 8's going to go? And, of course, previewing it and all that good stuff. So we have 3 races in the round of 8. The first race is Las Vegas. Then you have Homestead, Miami. Then you have Martinsville. As a Joey Logano fan, I absolutely love Las Vegas and Martinsville. These are 2 races that Logano is very good at. 2 tracks that Logano is very good at. So I think there's a chance Logano wins one of the 2 races. He usually very well at Las Vegas. Again, as a Logano fan, when you look at the schedule and I see Las Vegas, I'm like, yes, this is good. Kyle Busch, Kurt Busch are both out, so that's positive. Those are the hometown guys. And then Martinsville, another talented, very exciting track. If you can keep your nose clean, that's another racetrack that he's going to excel at. William Byron's going to do good at Martinsville, usually does. So it's going to be interesting how this whole thing goes. If I had to pick my championship 4 right now, I think you're going to have Logano. I think you're going to have Denny Hamlin. I think Chase Elliott's going to make it. The last spot's where things get tough. But I do think that you're going to barely see... I think the final spot's going to come down to a dogfight between Blaney and Byron. And I do think that Blaney's going to barely beat Byron for it. I think he's just more upset about not having a win this year. So, those are my final 4 predictions now. Of course, everything's weird. And I'm trying to predict a bit of an upset by knocking out Chastain. But, I mean, that's not the biggest upset in the world. Anyway, he hasn't been doing best lately. Knocking out Byron, meh. Knocking out the always fun to watch Chase Briscoe, who is somehow still in the playoffs, which is exciting. And Christopher Bell has a shot, but the way his car has been handling lately, I don't think he's going to win. I don't think he's going to make it to the Final Four. I would like to see him. My dream Final Four would be, of course, Logano, Briscoe, Bell, and it's where it starts to get tough. Hamlin, I would have to say, would be my 4th. Because I do not like Elliott. I don't want him to have a chance to win. Because the fans there, ugh. But anyways, this was the round of 12 recap, previewing the round of 8. Looking forward to it. Hopefully you're a NASCAR fan like me. If you are, hopefully you enjoyed this video. Have a good rest of your day. Stay safe out there. And of course, go Joey Logano.